Hello friends, welcome back to another Value Vintage Cards video. Wanted to share a few recent pickups and also share a couple that I've had in my collection for a little bit. So first one, they're all kind of themed in the same way. This one I've had for a little bit. 1959 Yoo-Hoo. They're all hand cut. So the difference between these, if they're hand cut, label that way, or if they say with tab. The tab obviously was at the bottom. You can see the perforation. So whoever cut this did a really nice job. Graded a 5. You'll see some really high-end grades on these. Actually, I see very few low grades. I don't see a lot of like 1s and A's and things like that. Most of these are cut pretty nicely, and for whatever reason, they're kept in good shape. So that's the Whitey Ford. I've had that slabbed up for a bit. Bought it that way. So nice solid 5. I just love the poses of this. I love the fact that it's like a, kind of small regional type issue. So I thought that was super cool. Set has only 5 cards, so completing the set is not crazy impossible. There's one in there that is noted by PSA as being probably a short print, or at least more scarce. I forget how they word it, but to me, it's the coolest one. It's a guy I collect pretty hard, which is really why the set got on my radar. I'm not necessarily a big Whitey Ford collector, and since the Yankees just lost the World Series, sorry, thought I would still go ahead and share this. 1959 Yoo-Hoo, my favorite one in the entire set, and I just love that it's got this like inscription at the bottom. I think it just says, "Me for Yoo-Hoo," and that has the player's signature. So, "Me for Yoo-Hoo," Yogi Berra. So, Yogi sitting in his locker with his leg crossed on a stool, drinking a Yoo-Hoo. How cool is that? So, that's been on my list for a long time. That's been on my list for like over a year. Searching, and when I say a long time, I mean, I didn't know this existed 5 years ago, so it would not have been on my list for that long. As I discover some of these new sets and issues, that's why I love when people share videos of things that are, rare, scarce, unknown, regional, whatever. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. So then I go researching, hunting, and in a perfect world, acquiring. But I couldn't find Yogi. That's not a Yogi. It's an official limited edition reprint. It's from 1992. This was issued. It's a super rare reprint card company. So how about that? If you're going to name yourself the super rare reprint card company, you must not make many of them. That was like counterproductive to what you're doing in printing. What a weird thought. But I just loved the look of that. I thought that was the coolest looking card. As I continue to hunt for it, it's just like, I can't find this thing. I can't find it anywhere. So what I ended up doing was, every time I go to eBay, it's on my searches. Every time I go to an auction site, it's on my searches. So I went to, REA recently. I don't search for like complete sets or anything, but when I searched for that card, it popped up as being in a set. And it's always tough because when something is, according to PSA and SGC, there's 50 of them graded. So, even if there's 50 ungraded out there, you're still talking about 100 of them being out there in the world. So maybe there's 100 Yogi Berra U cards. They sell, once every 6 months or 2 years. It just depends on what time frame you look at. There's not a lot of them moving. I think it's a heavily PC'd card. It's a well-appreciated card, and it's tough to get a market value on it because of that. As much as the market moves, and we see, people say the market's weak, and, it might be for 64 Topps Alkay lines. That card might have gone down. I don't know. Can't speak to it. But I will say what I feel from what I look for when you see things that are, populations of 50 and 100 and even a couple hundred. I don't see a lot of weakness. I see those cards still maintaining value and sometimes increasing in value, and there's still a pretty competitive market. So you're not talking about buying a share of stock. You're talking about buying something that's a work of art at that point, and it's rare. So I was fairly aggressive, and I will say I was hoping it would go on the weak side up to an aggressive side, and I think it went closer to the weak side, in fairness. So I just said I think the market's strong, but weak was still not cheap. But I was able to score the entire gosh darn set. So I will show you the whole set. I don't share complete sets often, but me for Yoo-Hoo, Gil McDougal, solid infielder. This one's kind of an interesting pose. Moose Scouring. I was thinking this was like a first baseman. Bill Scouring, Moose Scouring. Tony Kubek. So it's a cool one too. And then now, I have duplicates of Whitey Ford, just for some grading perspective. My PSA slab says 5. I don't see why that wouldn't grade out in a similar fashion. The biggest thing is the perforation at the bottom. You want to make sure you see that. But we've got the perforation, so it might be good. And then the grand finale, no longer in super rare reprint form. But they actually did a great job with the cut because the tab missing. They cut very generously. That perforation is well there. So I think that's going to do well if I were to submit it. I don't know if I want to submit that or not. That decision has not necessarily been made. I'm not a big submission person, but this having some value, some rarity, some scarcity to it, I may submit that. So when I'm at Strongsville, if you bump into me, I would say, it's probably a fair question to say, what'd you bring to submit? And I'll probably have 15 or 20 cards that'll drop off that day. But yeah, super excited. I wanted to keep this kind of brief. I just showed you the complete set, so all 5 of them. Super excited to have that Yogi in the collection. I think that's just one of the coolest cards, being that he's just so casual, sitting in his locker. And, it is, again, it's a tough one. So really excited to have that, and want to share. So anyone else have any Yoo-Hoos? Or the other question I always wonder, what's your favorite regional? Some people don't collect those, it's just Topps Bowman, but if you have a regional set that you really collect and think is cool from maybe that era, 50s, 60s, or even earlier, so please share. Always like to see what folks say. The other question I'll throw at you, curious on your thoughts, would you submit it? Berra only. I don't think the other ones are, they're lower dollar, they're more readily available too. Berra being a little bit of a short print has some different valuation to it maybe. So would you submit the Berra? Would you drop that off at SGC, or would you just go ahead and keep the entire set ungraded as it is? I always like to see who thinks what. So please share. I appreciate y'all. I'll see you on the next video. Thanks.